Hello, welcome to part 2 of our diabetes workshop, an integrative approach to diabetes. We are going to review a little bit of part 1 and talk about the optimal diet that can address diabetic issues. But our main focus today is going to be on lifestyle practices that can also help the diabetic and how we can support others with diabetes. I am Ellen Flukiger. I am a holistic nutritionist, and I am a nutrition and integrative health and functional medicine resident at Brookfield at Healthy Ways Wellness Center. A holistic nutritionist is someone who believes that diet and lifestyle practices can address underlying issues of disease, and that we can promote health. Health meaning that the body will have the nutrients that it needs to rejuvenate and to heal. In this presentation today, we are going to review several things from part 1. We're going to go over the ingredients of health. We're going to review glucose and insulin sensitivity and resistance. We're going to remind ourselves about the definitions of prediabetes and diabetes and target some of the complications that can come from being a diabetic. We're going to quickly review the optimal diet that will help to support someone who has diabetes. And then we're going to just talk a little bit about emotional eating that can affect diabetics and all of us. We're going to then focus on lifestyle practices and then summarize. Ingredients of health. My goodness, how do we all want to feel healthy and happy and have energy? And the ingredients are pretty basic. Eating a whole foods diet and being outside in the sunshine, breathing in good air, and drinking water that's not contaminated, to move and to have energy, to do the things that you want to do, to love yourself and to love others, make connections with other people, have meaning and purpose, and remove the obstacles to unhealthy lifestyles. So review of, let me move me out of the way again. Let's review that blood sugars go up and they go down, meaning that when you eat sugary foods and carbohydrates, and a lot of them, then your body responds by secreting insulin from the pancreas to help get this glucose which is broken down from sugars and carbohydrates, to get that glucose into the cells and give your cells energy. Glucose is used, a certain amount of glucose is used in the cells, but also glucose is needed and used and stored for later use. First of all, the liver stores it as glycogen, and it has a small storage capacity. The muscles store a little bit of glycogen, but when you eat an excess of carbohydrates that your body doesn't need, it stores it as fat. So big picture is when you eat too much sugar and too many carbohydrates, your body increases its fat storage. Let's talk a little bit and review about what insulin sensitivity is and insulin resistance. We want our bodies to be sensitive to insulin, meaning we want the cells to be able to use insulin to get glucose into the cells and use as energy rather than store it as fat. But oftentimes, due to a lot of different elements, our cells become resistant to insulin. And that's where the pancreas is producing insulin in response to an intake of sugary foods and carbohydrates that quickly turn to glucose. But our body isn't responding the same way, the right way, the sensitive way to insulin. And so in the blood, the glucose builds up, and that has lots of different adverse effects. It can affect your cholesterol, not just your blood sugar. It can affect triglycerides and increase inflammation. So we want to cultivate the environment to have sensitive insulin rather than cells that are resistant to insulin. You can look at this diagram here. On the left side, you will notice this is how it's supposed to work. There's glucose molecules in the blood, and insulin comes and gets that glucose into the cells so the cells can use it for energy. But oftentimes when that mechanism gets mixed up or goes awry for a variety of reasons, different paradigms can happen. We can have plenty of glucose in the blood, but the insulin isn't getting into the cells because the cells are resistant. Or we can also have an overflow, too much glucose in the cells. Both of the things create some problems for the body. Here's a picture of a cell, a diagram of a cell. And as you can see, insulin is like a key, and it goes to the cell and it puts that key in and it opens the door so that the glucose channel can be open and glucose from the blood can go into the cell. Let's remind ourselves of the definition between prediabetes and diabetes. Prediabetes is when the numbers are lower, not quite to a diabetic level. Blood sugars are a little bit higher than normal, and the body is struggling a little bit to process the glucose, and the insulin isn't quite working. The pancreas is getting tired, so there's glucose is just starting to accumulate more in the blood. But when the right numbers are hit, meaning above 5.7 for your glucose level, they're high. They're too high, and the body isn't working correctly. The pancreas is tired and isn't secreting enough insulin, or the cells, there's plenty of insulin, but the cells have become resistant to insulin, and there's too much glucose that is hanging out in the blood. This is when you start to notice symptoms. Symptoms could be increased thirst. It could be going to the bathroom more often, fatigue. There could be problems with vision, sleep issues, and rapid aging, poor wound healing. There's two different kinds of diabetes. We have type 1 and we have type 2. Type 1 is an autoimmune disease, meaning that the immune system has attacked the pancreas and destroyed those beta cells that produce insulin. So the body doesn't have insulin. So insulin has to be given to the body either by injections or with a pump. This can be due to some genetic factors, to environmental factors. Type 2 diabetes is the most common one, and it's a diet and lifestyle-based disease. About 90% of those diagnosed as diabetics fall into this category. It's where there's an excessive amount of abdominal fat, where the body has taken lots of that excess sugar and carbs that you've been eating for a long period of time and has deposited in the fat cells. It takes a long time to develop, up to 10 years, and it's mostly due from the diet and from the lifestyle. But the good news is the pancreas can recover, and as the body returns to a more normal rate, and the cells can become sensitive again to insulin. Many different complications. It's not just the symptoms of diabetes, but it's other. Diabetes is an underlying cause to many other diseases. Non-alcoholic fatty liver disease, where there's lots of fat deposits in the liver. Alzheimer's, cardiovascular, high blood pressure, dental issues, sleep apnea. Definitely, diabetics are inflamed, have chronic inflammation. It affects your eyes, your kidneys, your livers, your nerves. It can create foot ulcers and is an underlying cause for many different types of cancers. We spent a little bit of time talking about an optimal diet for diabetics to help to reduce that blood glucose. So just a quick review: to eat whole foods that are rich in antioxidants, nutrient dense, that low glycemic carbs, meaning that the body takes a longer time to turn the foods that we make in the foods that we eat into glucose. To cook with fresh herbs and spices, to eat with healthy fats, meaning avocados and olives and olive oil and coconut oil and avocado oil, nuts and seeds. To choose to eat high quality proteins, grass-fed meats, wild-caught fish. To check the labels of all the condiments and sauces that you're adding and know what's in them, and choose those that have healthier fats and low sugar, and or make your own. And consider intermittent fasting as a vehicle to help with balancing blood sugars. We have on YouTube a whole workshop that talks about intermittent fasting, and then to reduce your sugar and processed foods. So let's take a minute and talk a little bit about our relationship with food. And that might sound a little bit humorous. We think of relationships with people and not relationships with food. But for a minute, I want you to think about some of these questions that are here. Why do you eat food? Well, what does eating mean to you? Do you feel compelled to eat? Do you eat with hunger? Do you consider eating a ritual? Do you eat to nourish your body and soul? What are some benefits of eating good food? As you think and ponder on some of these things, it will maybe give you an opportunity to think about the importance of food in your life and what kind of relationship you have with that. So do you eat mindfully? Do you eat to satisfy physical hunger? Do you eat it to address cognitive distress or emotional problems, having your being lonely or busy, or is your food addressing emotional issues? Do you eat because you want to nourish yourself, because it's important for survival, or you're eating for a lot of other reasons? Do you feel compelled to eat? It's a certain time of day. You smell food coming from a restaurant. You crave certain kinds of foods. Everybody else around you is eating. Do you eat when you're not hungry? Or do you really take a minute to check in with your body and find out if you're hungry? And if you're hungry, do you eat then? And do you eat the right foods to nourish and help the body to be healthy and strong? Do you consider eating a ritual? Does eating nourish your body and soul? Do you take time when you eat to sit and to be grateful, or you rush quickly through your food? Do you take time to chew carefully and to savor and smell and appreciate the food? And do you understand some of the benefits of eating good food, how it can help and how it makes you feel? I like this quote. Using food for emotional support is common. Craving specific foods leads to mindless eating, not driven by the need for nourishment and hunger. However, eating food doesn't solve the emotional issue and often promotes feelings of guilt and shame and regret. Emotional eaters eat more when stressed or not hungry. They eat to feel better or for a reward. They eat until they're stuffed. They feel powerless around food, or may feel food is a friend. Emotional eating can also be the result of eating nutrient deficient, unbalanced meals. Consider seeking support to feel comfortable discussing your life when you're happy and fulfilled, when you're stressed or unhappy, and get help establishing new habits, identifying food triggers, and understanding your moods and emotions better. Eating food should be something that we do to nourish our bodies, and it shouldn't be something that we do to satisfy our emotional needs. So the next part of our presentation today is going to be focusing on lifestyle practices that can reduce blood sugar. A lot of times we don't connect our lifestyle practices with this. We just think about our diet. So these are some important things to identify. First of all, one of the things that we probably don't even think about is we live in a very toxic world. Our world is full of all kinds of chemicals and pollutants and herbicides and insecticides. So being aware of those and being able to reduce some of the environmental toxins that we're exposed to can help lower that blood sugar as well as a optimal diet. So you want to choose organic foods like we have talked about. Organic foods are not produced with pesticides, and they are more healthy and better for our bodies. To use gardening supplies carefully. Try to find some organic gardening supplies. Be careful in what kind of herbicides and insecticides that you apply to your yard and that you are exposed to. Use as much as you can natural cleaning products. Read the labels on those cleaning products and see all of the chemicals that are added and try to find those that have more natural ingredients. And consider an air filter especially for your room, because you spend lots of hours sleeping, so that the air is good quality and where you're sleeping. And make sure you're drinking filtered, uncontaminated water. Have your water evaluated and checked. There's lots of online sites to find organic beauty products, or you can choose some of the basic ones and make your own. There's lots of opportunities to be able to reduce some of the toxins that we're exposed to by being conscientious of some of these things. We can be careful about the amount of exposure that we have to electromagnetic frequencies. And that means your phones or your computers, the screen time, and electronic devices that you use. They can also affect your blood sugar. So because we're exposed, it's impossible not to be exposed to environmental toxins, even though we try to reduce those and can try to reduce those as much as we can in our world, we're still going to be exposed to them. So making sure that our body is able to detoxify when those toxins come into our bodies and boost that ability of detoxification is optimal when you're a diabetic and when you're dealing with blood sugar that's out of control, mechanisms that aren't working with insulin in the body. The body detoxifies by eliminating, by sweating, and by breathing. And there's certain organs in our body that are focused on helping our body detoxify. Liver is a big one. Skin is a big one. When we sweat, when the liver takes lots of toxins from the intestines, and it goes to the liver in two different phases to get rid of some of the toxins that we have been exposed to. Our kidneys, where help us detoxify. Our digestive system is geared to detoxify things from a lot of the bacteria and things that we are exposed to. So we want to support those detoxification organs. And there's supplements out there that we can use. NAC boosts glutathione, which helps in the phases of liver detoxification. Milk thistle supports the liver. There's alternative therapies like infrared sauna helps you sweat and get rid of toxins through your skin. Exercising helps you, again, breathe heavy and get rid of toxins through your breath and also through sweating. Baths, there's specific detoxification cleanses that you can participate in a few times a year that can help to reboot your system and help it work better and get rid of some of those toxins. And we've already focused a little bit on eating a good healthy diet and drinking filtered water. But there's some specific foods called cruciferous vegetables, meaning broccoli and cauliflower and cabbage, Brussels sprouts are specifically have elements that help our liver detoxify. Garlic and cilantro, celery. Celery juice is great too, and parsley and dandelion greens promote detoxification in the digestive system and in the liver. Movement and exercise is another lifestyle practice that can affect our ability to control our blood sugar, to have those mechanisms work properly. And it's important to do aerobic training. That's where you breathe out and you sweat, and also strength training. And these things not only help control your blood sugar, but they have lots of other benefits. They can support weight loss, they can increase your metabolism, they can reduce cravings, improve your sleep, and improve gene expression. So the goal would be to try to work up to about 60 minutes a day, 5 to 6 days a week. And you begin little slowly and increase and add to that duration and give your body a chance to, as you work on new muscles or other things that your body has a chance to repair. Vary your exercise. Try a whole bunch of different things. You want to focus on being able to exercise the whole entire body, not just the lower half or the upper half. Consider aerobic training that exercises your heart and gives you a chance to breathe deeply and heavily and get rid of toxins through your breath, and then give your body a chance to cool down and stretch and relax after you have been doing some aerobic or strength training. Sleep is another lifestyle practice that can affect your blood sugar control. You want to aim for about 6 to 7, 8, 9 hours of sleep a night. Your body needs that sleep because it's doing a whole bunch of things. It is repairing and rejuvenating, and your hormones are being balanced, and your body's detoxifying. All of those things are happening, and so when you limit sleep, those things become compromised. Having a nightly routine is optimal. Having a warm bath, doing some gentle exercises, listening to a meditation recording from YouTube, having guided imagery. All of those things help the body wind down and be prepared for a rejuvenating sleep. Your environment in your room can be cold and dark. You want to keep it, turn the electronics off, not sleep with your phone or your computer. Want to be able to avoid caffeine and alcohol that can inhibit sleeping. And then there's some supplements that you can take to help with help your body relax and be in a position to sleep. That's magnesium or melatonin or valerian. If sleep is a real challenge, there's actually sleep therapy that you can go through to help train your body to sleep and get this really critical component that affects your blood sugar control and many other elements in the body. Stress management. This is a tricky one because our lives are full of stress. We're constantly busy and rushing and going and moving and have many things that are on our to-do lists. It's a part of life. We can't get out of stress. Like we live in a toxic world. We have to learn how to manage those things. So there's lots of different techniques, and it might be different for each person. What de-stresses me might be different from what de-stresses you. But when you have stress, your hormones, especially cortisol increases, and that can raise your blood sugar, it can raise your blood pressure, it can shut down digestion and your heart rate. It puts you in a sympathetic mode rather than a parasympathetic mode, which is what you want to rest and to relax. So many of the different techniques that you can try for stress management, these are just examples of deep breathing, of doing yoga, Reiki, massage. Many of these things are offered at Healthy Ways Wellness Center. Eating a healthy diet, as we have talked about. Taking regular breaks during the day to move around, to exercise a little bit, to drink good filtered water. In finding activities that balance out the hectic lives we have and all of the things that we are responsible to do. So we want to balance on the other side of participating in enjoyable activities and things that we like, hobbies or sports, to have a positive outlook on life, be able to identify the things in your life that you're grateful for, to laugh, to smile, to be around people to make you feel good. Maybe participate in activities to volunteer, making connections with God through prayer. All of these things can help to lower stress. And I like this little quote that's here on this slide. Life is all about balance. You don't always need to be getting stuff done. Sometimes it's perfectly okay to absolutely necessary to shut down, kick back, and do nothing. In this presentation, we also want to highlight how other people in a diabetic's family or friends can support them. And I'm going to target a few ways that might be helpful. The first one is to focus on the management of diabetes rather than the consequence of diabetes. We talked about the complications, health complications that can arise connected to those who have diabetes, but focusing on how to manage it is a much more productive way. To listen when the diabetic feels frustrated because they are always thinking about their food and checking their blood sugar. There's an emotional component to being a diabetic and understanding that and realizing that. And to be open to talking and listening and fostering that communication. And being aware that sometimes the diabetic may get just tired and burnt out or feel depressed with dealing with their symptoms and issues. Also, those who are in a family or friend of a diabetic, they have to monitor their own needs and make sure that they're not giving too much and not taking care of themselves. They can invite the diabetic to participate in their own exercise routine, and they can eat and model and help cook healthy foods and meals for that diabetic. The truth is, diabetes and diabetes management ultimately belongs to the person with diabetes. But diabetes also is a family affair, and whether you're invited or not, diabetes will play a role in your relationship. Finding a balance between involvement and respect for the person's independence is key. Here's some tips to consider. This came from a website, and I thought they made sense to me. Number 1, don't offer unsolicited advice about diabetes to diabetics. Number 2, do realize having diabetes is hard work. Constantly think about eating. They have to constantly think about eating, about their medications, about how they're going to manage things. Number 3, don't tell stories about other people with diabetes. Number 4, do offer to help the diabetic make healthy lifestyle changes. Number 5, don't look horrified when the diabetic checks blood sugars or injects insulin. Number 6, do ask how you might be helpful. Number 7, don't offer thoughtless reassurances that diabetes is no big deal. Number 8, do support self-care for the diabetic. Number 9, don't peek at the blood glucose number without asking. Number 10, do offer your love and encouragement. So overall takeaway from part 1 and part 2, as we have been learning more about diabetes and how, even more important, how to manage it through optimal diet and lifestyle practices. Diabetes is a progressive disease. It tends to require more and more medication over time to control glucose levels. And eventually, diabetic complications can develop. However, it is possible to fully control the condition, even reverse type 2 diabetes, and prevent diabetes' harmful effects, or even reverse damage that has already occurred. Focusing on the overall health of the body, including the mind and the spirit, with natural modalities like nutrition, we talked about that, exercise, we talked about that, sleep hygiene, we talked about that, stress management, we talked about that, environmental detoxification and support can balance blood sugar. Diabetics can have energy and health to live their life fully and completely. Here's the references to this presentation. Thank you for your interest and for your attention.